There are already enough hot takes on AI, and I'm genuinely sorry to add to the noise, but amidst all the current discourse, there exist some fundamental truths that are getting overlooked. Also, it feels like now might be one of the last opportunities to talk about the topic before it becomes another culture war issue divided by yet unknown lines, in the same way that don't drink bleach was a relatively fangless statement to make before bleach came to represent hydroxychloroquine, which came to represent vaccine hesitance, which came to represent a major political value for half the country. I will preface all of this by saying I don't want you as a viewer to watch this and come to a rating of how right or wrong my ideas are. This is not take rating bait. This, like art, is an expression of perspective that could be fruitful if pointed towards an open mind. More on that later. 2 years ago, NFTs were the thing to come to one personal conclusion on before you would then make fun of all the other people who didn't agree with you. NFT maximalists would change all of their avatars to the most repulsive, low effort illustrations, and NFT haters would copy and paste the same "I'm gonna right click save this monkey picture" joke every 2 minutes as if it was a legitimately epic own. Two things can be true at once. The technology behind NFTs might become a transformative way to prove ownership of goods, and the culture surrounding that technology has been irreversibly hijacked by get-rich-quick losers who only care about turning a profit. AI has been an incredible development for human productivity and a magnet for people so slimy I'd call them worms if not for the insult it would be to my beloved red wigglers. So, regardless of how I feel about artificial intelligence, this is basic truth number one in 2023. The culture around AI right now is one of taking, not of generously giving. The clickbaity thumbnails promise tools for making money, for getting more jobs, and for getting ahead of the curve, just like the FOMO tweets for NFT projects promised big profits to early adopters. In the same way that Bitcoin lovers will sometimes admit, yeah, the crypto space is full of scams, but I still think the underlying tech is revolutionary, AI futurists should be willing to accept that right now the dial is pointed towards greed. It's a seller's market, so to speak. One byproduct of this is the second obvious truth that isn't being properly acknowledged. The term AI is being applied to too many of the wrong things and not enough of the right ones. Autocorrect, that's AI now. Anything that used to be called an algorithm, rebranded, AI. Anytime a computer outputs something based on your inputs, it's now called AI, even if it's just a rudimentary decision tree on the back end. Remember when companies were adding blockchain to their name for no reason and seeing huge increases in stock price? That disingenuous application of new technology is happening everywhere. Spotify could make an AI DJ. I've been using the Pacemaker app for like 4 years doing exactly that. But instead, Spotify's AI DJ is just a little guy in your ear saying, "Hey buddy, here comes your next song." What the? Ask Jeeves took prompts in the form of human questions. Siri takes prompts in the form of human questions. But where Siri says, "Here are the search results for how many legs do spiders have," ChatGPT says, "Spiders have 8 legs." I don't want to make it seem like that's the only difference. I am legitimately impressed by the power of language learning models. But way too much AI discussion is taking place with a blatant disregard for any window of time wider than 5 years. Remember how hard it was to remove backgrounds from objects in Photoshop, especially if that subject had hair or fur? Now you can click one button and a computer does it all for you. Remember when Snapchat filters were still a legitimate novelty and we were captivated by the ability to track a mouth flawlessly enough to spew rainbows out of our own in real time? Any photo or video manipulation task that I spent hours learning in high school, like changing the color of someone's hair to show them what it would look like if they dyed it, can now be performed in a fraction of the time with results that look 100 times better. It seems like the fact that we're already used to these conveniences disqualifies them from being part of the AI discussion, and instead, we point that attention to tools that barely change anything. You know what we used to call AI girlfriends? Bots. A fake person with no real identity would present pictures of a sexy lady on Tinder and say something like, "Hey baby, I sure do think you're cute. Mind sending me $10?" But thanks to the current culture around AI, that nuisance has been repackaged as a desirable SaaS product. Every YouTube video has at least one instance of this exact comment. I think we can all agree his content never disappoints, even if it's a woman talking. Everyone who has a Shopify account gets emails like, "Hello, fellow entrepreneur, I have an exciting opportunity for you." We're already familiar with bots, and we used to treat them like spam. But for some reason, the AI grifters are able to rebrand it with paid online courses called Using AI to 10x Your Sales. If me explaining my perspective on AI helps you think differently about the topic in any way, let it be in a way that considers more than just a 5-year timeline. I think the majority of misguided conclusions people have come to short-sightedness. Like when someone says, AI isn't even that good, you're impressed that a computer can spit out this beer ad even though the hands look wrong? Yeah, duh. The whole point of all this discussion is that the progress is happening quickly. Why let that be your genius conclusion when you know you're living through its early phase? Very silly to me. It's similar to the fear of AI taking all of our jobs. Yes, some people are acting way too cavalier in their assertion that this is inevitable. Yes, plenty of people, especially in America, are anti-worker and can't wait to find another way to act as such. The last underrepresented truth in this rant is that we talk about having a job like it's the ultimate goal, even if we finally become so productive that some of us don't need one anymore. The major red flag that never gets waved during AI versus job discourse is that productivity has always kept going up and wages keep staying the same. Either pay the workers more or allow them to work less. Quit making everyone hang out in an office for 40 hours every week. Imagine a company that has one employee whose job it is to file TPS reports, but another employee writes a script that files every report automatically. What should happen next? I think it's the old reporter's responsibility to demonstrate potential value of a different kind. I think it's their manager's responsibility to recognize strengths that might translate to another role. And I think it's the company's responsibility to consider that person's humanity instead of immediately treating their contributions as obsolete. In a perfect world, all three of these things would happen. But hopefully, even just one would prevent this person from suddenly losing their livelihood and health insurance. I understand that this hypothetical is going to leave rose emoji tweeters murmuring, this is why the company should have been employee-owned in the first place, and Gadsden flag flyers hooting and hollering about redundancies always being obsolete. So I'll leave that can of worms only half opened. What I don't think you, dear viewer, should do when you hear about Drake's job getting automated is to dig your heels in and insist, no, some things can be automated, like grocery store cashiers, but making music is uniquely human, and you will not take that away from me. That's dismissive of both the past and the future. If you championed automation in the past, you should expect the out-of-work truck drivers to take issue with the too bad, so sad, learn to code sentiment that gets blue-collar folks to hate ivory tower college buttheads. And if you can't imagine a world of AI-enabled art in the future, this is where I have to end the relatively objective truths portion of the video and present my perspective on an incredibly hairy problem. I have a master's degree in graphic design, the ultimate confluence of art and commodities. The art school didn't want us poisoning their cultural purity with our brand empowerment, and the business school didn't want us queering up the joint, spending 5 hours doodling on the computer. I don't want this to come off as dismissive, but planting your flag atop AI is bad because it can't make art without committing theft mountain displays a certain misunderstanding of art and design. Folks in the biz understand trends and mood boards and references. We all still blame Chobani for the blobs of flat color trends that everyone's finally almost out of. We're not calling that theft because artists know artistic concepts aren't scarce. Do a YouTube search for digital painting tutorials, and the results will probably be people sharing their tricks. Do a YouTube search for AI tutorials, and most of them are about getting one over on someone. People who are more art-minded than business-minded understand that value doesn't have to lie within scarcity. But I know that audiences might not necessarily get this sentiment, and that's why you see so much cooking instruction that's all about the secret to the best recipes. The NFT example from earlier represents a similar misunderstanding of scarcity. Like so many arguments online, I earnestly can't tell if it's just being made in bad faith or by someone who doesn't understand what they're talking about. You can take a picture of the Mona Lisa, you can copy paste an NFT. That doesn't mean that you made it, that you own it, or that you did anything special or clever in response to its existence. If I tell DALL-E to spit out a portrait of my dog in the style of Andy Warhol, I don't think people would get mad about me stealing Andy Warhol's work. When we're not talking about AI, we usually speak with an understanding and appreciation for the remix culture that enables music sampling and collage. The bigger reason why nobody would care about my Warhol ripoff is because it's meaningless. It's inconsequential because anyone who's seen more than 10 paintings in their life will know that it's a reference. So here's a free tip for AI haters who want to get better at hating AI art. The great criticism to make of its output is not that it's stolen, it's that it's derivative. AI art is indisputably, deliberately, and by definition, derivative. It derives motifs from extant works and applies them to something else. It's low effort. Great news for extremely online people who use the word gatekeeping more than once a year. It requires no classically artistic talent. Gate removed. And while it is true that the world doesn't need any more Banksy clones or Shepard Fairey wannabes, derivative AI media still holds potential for great art that matters. Remember when DALL-E 2 popped off as an incredible tool? This was sort of at the beginning of this whole AI craze. DALL-E 2 was invite only, so someone made DALL-E Mini, which was free to the public. Its image generating capabilities were atrocious. It was completely incapable of spitting out a beautiful image. But the images people were generating were remarkable enough to become viral memes. The art in that moment of using this tool to generate remarkable imagery lied completely in how creative the prompt writer was. These images of minions signing the Declaration of Independence are not beautiful paintings, but the proliferation of image generator prompts like it is a good illustration of artistic value to non-artists. When new tools arrive, be they for farming or accounting or art, deft use of the tools becomes a new expression of mastery. Look at the guy in your office who's really good at building complex sheets in Excel. The software is doing all the work until you consider telling the software what to do as meaningful work. What if I made a music video, but I make it by asking an image generator software to spit out a painting of each individual word within the song's lyrics? Great news. New software lets you find out what that might look like almost instantly. Bad news. You still have to think of the most appropriate song, feed those lyrics in, save all the images, import them into video editing software, tinker around with the timings, see the results, compare them to the outputs of a couple different versions, and come to a final product before putting it on display for the world to see. It still takes work, but that effort is placed on different steps of the process. In design school, we had a teacher who insisted we don't realize how good we have it. If we want to add a gradient, we can use the gradient tool and make one instantly. He had to use actual paint and ink before perfectly blending each color into the other. I can now use gradients and lens flares and 3D images instantly, but making good design is still hard work. I don't have to set type with wooden blocks anymore. The constraints are lifted, my abilities are increased, but the work of making meaningful art is still hard. If there was a contest where the person who could make the best song wins $1 billion, but everyone had to use the same 3 AI softwares and no other tools, do you honestly think you would win? If it's an artless endeavor, maybe everybody should make equally good work and everyone ties for first place. Or maybe you think the outcome would be effectively random. I make this argument not to make anyone feel bad about having the wrong opinion, but to help you think outside the current constraints of what makes creative work creative. Let's say I wanted to use DALL-E to make a thumbnail for one of my YouTube videos. If I say, make me a YouTube thumbnail for a video all about meditation for people who are addicted to podcasts, it's going to suck. Also, it's going to be in the wrong aspect ratio. So instead, I told it to give me some images of Buddhist monks with headphones on. Then I copied 2 of those monks and pasted them into an image of a big open park. That's my thumbnail. I didn't have to pay for stock images. I didn't have to change my vision according to which stock images were available, but the creative work of having an idea or a vision did not go away. The value of art will change somewhat, just like it always has. Back when iPads had people up in arms about digital painting and digital cameras had professional photographers up in arms about autofocus. Some DJs are mad that software can now isolate the vocals and generate transitions between songs, but some DJs are still mad a decade later that beat sync exists. And some of them still insist that only the manipulation of vinyl can make someone a real DJ. Personally, I love it when these goalposts change. Now, a good photo is so much more than is it in focus and properly exposed. I love contemporary art for its ability to reside at the precise intersection of I could do that and yeah, well, you didn't. I like the banana duct taped to the wall. Go banana. And I also don't feel bad for the purists who feel differently. There's always a small market for things done the hard way. What a blessing that some people see the value in my handmade ceramic dinnerware that costs 10 times as much as machine-made dishes. Non-artists seem to have an easier time imagining the symbiosis between AI and humans. When I get my teeth x-rayed, a computer program trawls the scans for potential issues and tells the human dentist where to look more closely for potential problems. The metrics by which we attribute excellence to work will be more exciting, not just for art, but for all work. The ceiling for what's possible will be raised, and the bar for what's acceptable, as always, will be lowered. This is where I stop acting excited about the future, because people who do love great art already know where this is headed. As if the internet didn't already give us enough of it, here comes an even bigger tsunami of trend-inspired, cringe-inducing, derivative, commodity-grade junk. We interact with commodity-grade junk every day. Go to any image on your Instagram Explore tab and count how many of the comments are just canned responses from bots. Google any big pop culture news that happened yesterday and count how many bot-generated articles there are about it. Even if you still truly in your heart of hearts believe that AI will never craft beautiful works of cinema, music, or literature, surely you can admit that an overwhelming majority of people do not care. Part of this right now can be attributed to novelty. You can watch an AI version of Seinfeld 24/7, and even though virtually none of it is well-produced entertainment, might be kind of novel to tune in, hoping to catch one of those rare monkeys on typewriters moments where something incredible does happen by chance. But even after the novelty wears off, there will be people who unashamedly, unabashedly love it, the same way there are fans of Bravo or Twitch now. Understand now, ahead of time, that it will be maddening when you find out that normal people who walk among us are fans of an AI-generated reality dating show where none of the people are real. It will drive you crazy to find out someone you love and respect is unironically a fan of the new summer blockbuster Transformers, but they all transform into Pokemon instead of cars. Some mean people already use this sentiment to paint AI as an inevitable slop peddler for brain-dead masses, but we already have slop, so it's not right to blame technology any more than you'd blame low standards having viewers. We already have La Brea and The Good Doctor and The Masked Singer. If you're the type of person who watches commentary YouTubers whose channels are all like, can you believe they made a show called MILF Manor? Good news, your favorite influencer is about to have way more inspiration to put out way more content. Bad news, some of those commentary channels could change every single one of their video titles to the wild, wacky world of insert topic here, so I hate to inform you, the call may be coming from inside the house, but we don't have time to address that any further right now. Back to the slop. This is what Seth Godin would call the regular kind. If I ask ChatGPT to make a YouTube title that will go viral, some of the words in that title will be in all caps, and there might be a little stinger in the parentheses, because when it comes to YouTube titles, that's the regular kind. When something is the regular kind, it's usually more formulaic, more derivative, and more predictable. Maybe the future of understanding what it means to be human will involve creativity to produce outside of what's regular instead of just the ability to generate anything under the current broad contemporary umbrella of art. If I asked a language learning model to summarize all of this theorizing into binary conclusions, I hope it would say this. Can AI make art? Yes, if you have the broad misunderstanding of what art is that most non-artsy people hold. Is AI the future? Yes, in so much as computers are the future and seedless watermelon is the future, fully established as generally enjoyable while still holding the potential to get even better. Is AI dangerous? Yes, in so much as computers are dangerous and seedless watermelons are dangerous. You might not be able to predict the future of robots, but you can always count on some humans being jerks to hurt each other by any means. Will AI take people's jobs? Yes. Ask some truck drivers and travel agents about what to expect. If I asked a language learning model to summarize all this theorizing into binary conclusions, what I know it wouldn't say is, by asking me to summarize this video, you've fundamentally missed its point. You've demonstrated a problematic reliance on being told how to feel, and you should immediately open your mind to newer, more open-ended ways of thinking, lest ye languish in the wake of more advanced learning models. You still need a human to tell you that.